But do you think now, looking back on that whole episode...
I wish it hadn't happened.
Obviously that Prince Andrew has denied all allegations of any involvement in that side of
and that's it's for other people to decide.
Yeah.
So you say that she gets the papers every day, and it's not just those big, awful stories that we're talking about now.
This is the story of a man who lived inside the most exclusive world in Britain, the royal circle itself. Someone who walked the same halls as kings, queens, and future heirs, serving the royals up close and seeing palace life in ways almost nobody outside could imagine. Thanks to a new memoir by Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, the world is finally getting a rare peek behind that glittering royal curtain, and some of it is jaw-dropping. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. The traditions, the ceremonies, the air of elegance the royal family is famous for. But behind those grand palace doors, a whole different story. The calm, composed image of royalty was carefully crafted, but reality was messy, tense, and dramatic. Even Queen Elizabeth II, known worldwide for her poise, reportedly had moments when keeping the peace inside the palace was a real challenge. Paul Burrell wasn't just any palace employee. He spent over 2 decades in the heart of it all. Starting as a young footman serving the Queen, he mastered palace life down to every detail. His loyalty and dedication earned him a top position. Personal butler to King Charles III, back when he was still Prince of Wales. That role put him in the inner circle, where he witnessed both the glamour and the drama shaping modern royal history. Burrell became famous as Princess Diana's trusted right-hand man, standing beside her through years of glitter, tension, and heartbreak.
He's a man of strong Christian faith, and he is appalled by the allegations. He will be sensing the need to give duty of care. This man is a broken, finished man at best.
From 1987 to 1997, he was more than staff. He was a confidant, seeing the raw, unfiltered moments that defined her life. That bond is why his words hit so hard. These aren't rumors. They're first-hand memories from someone who lived it all. When his first memoir, A Royal Duty, hit shelves, it became a global sensation, selling over 2 million copies. Readers were hooked by his honesty, insider knowledge, and vivid stories from behind the royal facade. Now, at 67, Paul Burrell returns with another explosive tell-all, The Royal Insider. My Life with the Queen, the King, and Princess Diana, 2026, Hayes Mobius, diving even deeper into the world that continues to fascinate millions. Burrell shares new revelations, including Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's behavior, which he claims was impossible to ignore. He doesn't hold back. I had lots of interactions with Andrew over the years. I saw his pomposity firsthand. Those words reveal the tension and controversy surrounding certain royal figures. Through his stories, Burrell paints royal life as both dazzling and unsettling. The public image shows only half the truth. Andrew reportedly displayed fiery attitudes towards staff, sometimes shouting, "Get out of here!" This wasn't a one-off incident, it was a pattern. Palace staff sometimes reached breaking points, forced to stay late into the night, maintaining endless expectations.
By the allegations, and of course affected in his role as monarch as well, because the headlines are all about this, which, no institution wants that, and he is trying to do and is doing an extraordinary job in his role as head of...
Burrell highlights how small daily moments exposed bigger issues of authority, discipline, and family dynamics, truths rarely seen by the public. His memoir reminds us the glamour hides tension, drama, and rules bent behind closed doors. What looks perfect outside often masks a more complicated, sometimes shocking reality inside the palace walls. Burrell writes that Andrew would throw dinner parties that ran past midnight, keeping the household staff on duty until every plate was polished and every room spotless. Eventually, things got so serious that Queen Elizabeth II herself had to step in, reminding her son to respect those working for the family. But here's the kicker. According to Burrell, even a direct chat with the Queen didn't fix anything. Late nights and casual disregard for staff kept happening, showing just how tricky royal life could be behind closed doors. He claims that after the Queen spoke to them, both Andrew and Sarah Ferguson started shutting staff out of their private rooms, isolating themselves for long stretches. Burrell calls this a total abuse of the system. He insists these weren't random incidents. They were part of a pattern, shaped by influences deeper than outsiders could imagine. Burrell hints that the source of this behavior goes way back, sparking intense debate already. According to him, Andrew's story didn't begin with scandal. It began with privilege. From the start, Andrew was treated differently from his siblings, protected, praised, and rarely told no. He lived knowing he had a safety net within the royal circle that others didn't. Burrell even suggests this might have come straight from the Queen herself, gently hinting that she had a soft spot for her son and found it hard to deny him anything he wanted. Timing played a huge role too. When Andrew was born, Queen Elizabeth II was more established as monarch and could spend more time as a mother. Unlike Charles and Anne, Andrew got extra attention, nurturing, and family focus, a difference that quietly shaped his life and left a lasting mark on the royal household. Prince Philip, according to Burrell, ran the palace like clockwork, disciplined, direct, and firm. He kept senior royals following proper channels, maintaining order and respect.
Great to have you. There are, of course, reports today accusing Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor of sharing another official document with one of his business contacts, but we've seen a week of negative headlines and revelations. How concerned will the king be about this and all the allegations?
It would be astonishing if he wasn't concerned.
But Andrew didn't always play by the rules, bending them to get what he wanted. That special treatment shaped how he saw authority, responsibility, and his place in the family. Burrell suggests it wasn't just privilege. It was growing up in a world where boundaries were blurred and rules didn't always apply. That sense of entitlement didn't stay with Andrew alone. It started influencing others in the royal circle. When Sarah Ferguson, a farmer's daughter and polo manager's child, married into the royal family, everything changed. Andrew allegedly told her she could have anything she wanted, shaping their lifestyle instantly. Burrell paints a picture of indulgence, love, luxury, and endless access, limits rarely applied. Over time, both Andrew and Sarah became accustomed to a royal bubble where comfort and attention felt normal. Their personalities mirrored each other, thriving on glamour, freedom, and attention, yet that dream life didn't last. Eventually, Ferguson left Royal Lodge, and Andrew's royal honors were gradually stripped away. Burrell notes that these changes reflected the monarchy's need to protect its public image as controversies mounted. This story shows how privilege, indulgence, and shifting rules inside the palace created patterns that eventually led to real consequences, changing their lives forever. Everything hit a turning point on October 30th, 2025, when King Charles III officially stripped Andrew of his remaining royal titles and honors. The move shocked royal watchers and marked the end of an era for the once high-profile Duke. Burrell reminds readers this wasn't sudden. It was years in the making. The tension started building after 2019, when Andrew stepped back from royal duties following his infamous BBC interview. That televised appearance sparked global criticism and set off events that reshaped his public image forever.
What's your take on everything with the Prince Andrew interview?
Well, do you know what? I didn't know him that well. To be honest with you, when I started Buckingham Palace, I was 18 years old. He was still in the royal nursery with Prince Edward.
Burrell's storytelling pulls back the curtain on life in this rarefied world, a mix of privilege, pressure, and decisions with consequences far beyond the palace gates. Commentators called that interview one of the most damaging moments in modern royal history. Andrew, once His Royal Highness Prince Andrew, Duke of York, is now simply Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, a shift that shows just how much his standing has fallen from someone who once represented the royal family worldwide. This public fall from grace changed everything. The palace no longer issues statements for him or speaks on his behalf, a silence louder than words, showing how distant he has become from official royal life. Legal and public pressures tied to past controversies kept his name in the spotlight, with every headline reigniting debate about how fragile reputation can be, even for someone born into royalty. But Burrell points out the impact goes deeper than titles and headlines. It hit the royal family itself. Relationships grew strained, trust once unshakable became tricky, and palace gatherings turned tense. People started asking, what happens when someone who was front and center suddenly vanishes from the royal stage? Financial concerns and day-to-day life outside the spotlight added even more questions to the mix. With his royal duties suspended and official support gone, speculation quickly turned to how Andrew would maintain his lifestyle. Burrell mentions rumors about property deals and finances, sparking curiosity everywhere. Maintaining the appearance of royalty became a constant challenge, watched closely by the public and press alike. Burrell points out that the change wasn't just about image. It reshaped relationships, trust, and the delicate balance within one of the world's most famous families. Life after royalty isn't simple. Security costs, staff, and maintaining appearances don't just vanish overnight. Public scrutiny added pressure, making recovery almost impossible once reputation took a hit. Every small move was filtered through critical eyes. Observers noticed Buckingham Palace's silence, usually a protective shield, now a signal of distance. Burrell sees it as a clear message. Official business is separate from personal consequences. He argues that what happened to Andrew wasn't sudden. It was decades in the making. Habits, patterns, and expectations went unchallenged for years, merging into the situation the world now watches unfold. This account isn't just palace gossip. It's a study of power, family, and reputation colliding on the world stage. Burrell highlights how public perception and private reality clash, showing that even centuries of protection can't prevent consequences forever. The story continues to evolve, rippling through the royal family and leaving lessons about influence, accountability, and the fragility of privilege. What jumps out in Paul Burrell's account is how fast everything can change once public trust starts to crumble. For decades, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor carried the quiet confidence of someone protected by royal privilege. But when controversy hit, that shield vanished almost overnight.
Because the 2 weeks of the trial that existed was in the public domain, it was prosecution.
Yes.
I never had my defence because
So
the
do you
Queen came
think
to
the
my rescue.
Yes, so the Queen did come to your rescue.
Yes.
But do you think now, looking back on that whole episode...
I wish it hadn't happened.
Burrell explains how the shift from senior royal to private citizen wasn't just losing a title. It changed every aspect of daily life. Privileges that once felt automatic were suddenly uncertain. Daily routines, relationships, even identity were thrown into flux. One major source of tension was Royal Lodge, Andrew's grand estate. Without official duties, maintaining the property, staff, and security became a huge challenge. Even small practical matters turned into public talking points, showing how tightly family, money, and image were connected. Burrell emphasizes that solutions were never simple. Family loyalty, financial responsibility, and public perception collided, leaving few paths that could satisfy everyone. The monarchy, focused on protecting the crown's image, drew distance and set boundaries, separating official business from individual mistakes. Every headline, photo, and scandal reflected not just on Andrew, but the entire institution. Burrell suggests many behind-the-scenes choices went unseen, quietly shaping outcomes while the world watched. His account shows how public perception can shift quickly, turning privilege and power into scrutiny, isolation, and profound change. Burrell's account paints a portrait of a man shaped from a young age by layers of privilege, surrounded by systems that rarely challenged his behavior. It's a stark reminder of how power, protection, and position can stunt growth until the outside world demands answers. Whether you see Burrell's storytelling as insight or opinion, it shines a light on how power, family, loyalty, and choices collide, leaving lasting marks. Every action, every decision, every silence carries weight when the world is watching. Public fascination with life behind palace walls isn't slowing down. The story took another turn when authorities renewed attention on Andrew. According to reports, the Metropolitan Police reviewed emails from 2011 showing Andrew allegedly asking his bodyguard for private details about an accuser. Officials didn't confirm if any action was taken, but the revelation reignited media coverage. Separately, the BBC reported emails suggesting Andrew may have shared sensitive materials from a 2010 trade trip to Southeast Asia. While unverified by the palace, these claims added a layer of intrigue, blurring the lines between private correspondence and official duties. Burrell doesn't give answers but highlights the recurring theme. When privilege, access, and influence collide, consequences ripple far beyond the original moment. Ultimately, Burrell reminds readers that behind polished appearances, the royal world is still human. Some choices calculated, some emotional, all impactful. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor continues to deny all allegations, but each new detail, no matter how small, fuels public and media scrutiny. It's a story of trust, image, and accountability colliding in the most public way imaginable. Andrew has maintained his stance through years of public and legal scrutiny, insisting on his innocence and rejecting any wrongdoing.
I suspect now that he's, as it were, banished to the sort of open prison somewhere on the Sandringham estate. I would strongly believe that he would very much like him to testify, but knows that to stand up and say that is a hiding.
Despite waves of commentary, investigations, and speculation, his position hasn't wavered. But the controversy refuses to fade, proving how relentless public scrutiny can be when it involves royalty. When Paul Burrell's newest book reignited attention, Buckingham Palace responded quickly, but briefly. A spokesperson said, "We don't comment on such books." Short, but it spoke volumes. It was a clear signal. The monarchy was keeping its distance, separating the institution from the memoir without disputing it. Meanwhile, reports surfaced about changes inside Andrew's household. Staff dynamics reportedly shifted dramatically. According to The Sun, a growing number of palace employees chose not to work for him, explicitly told they weren't obliged to accept assignments if uncomfortable. This rare openness in royal circles showed just how far things had evolved from traditional palace life. The insider explained that hesitation among staff wasn't isolated, it was widespread. Andrew was increasingly viewed as a pariah, a stark fall from the polished image he once held. Burrell's reflections, combined with media reports, paint a picture of a royal life transformed, not just in status or privilege, but in trust, connection, and how those around him engage with him. Respect turned into reluctance, familiarity gave way to distance, and quiet shifts in perception reshaped everyday life. These subtle changes show how quickly power can vanish when the world starts looking through a different lens. Burrell's memoir adds depth to the growing narrative about life inside Andrew's household. He insists this isn't rumor or tabloid gossip. It's what's been whispered in palace corridors for years. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Burrell says, was shaped by privilege, raised in comfort, protected by hierarchy, and rarely challenged. That mix of status and insulation allowed accountability to take a back seat, with behaviors tolerated in the name of family loyalty and tradition. But now, Burrell notes, that world has vanished. Royal titles are gone, protection withdrawn, and the Queen, the one who always shielded him, is no longer there. Without that anchor, the structure that once defined his life is gone. What remains is a man increasingly isolated from the institution he was born into. Once a symbol of royal privilege, he now lives on the edge of that world. A dramatic fall showing just how fragile influence can be when the system holding it up disappears. Burrell describes a complete transformation, from the inner circle of power to quiet separation, where every move is watched but few voices speak. Some former staff reportedly keep their distance entirely, reflecting not just professional boundaries but a deeper shift in how loyalty is understood in royal service. For decades, Andrew lived inside one of the world's most powerful institutions, surrounded by tradition, ceremony, and protection. Once those layers were stripped away, untouchable privilege disappeared almost overnight. What's left is a far quieter existence, showing how fast fortune, reputation, and influence can vanish when the system that built them steps aside. Burrell emphasizes that royal image projected stability, but behind the walls, perception reigns. Once public confidence crumbles, ripple effects touch relationships, social standing, and even daily life, revealing the fragile truth behind carefully maintained appearances. Stories that were once kept behind palace walls are now emerging, while others quietly pull away, choosing distance over association. That gradual separation, both inside and outside the palace, shows just how deeply the fallout has reshaped life around Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The tight circles of loyalty have loosened, and the silence that once protected him has turned into absence. Burrell raises a bigger question. How much of this is about individual choices, and how much is shaped by the environment that formed them from the very beginning? Growing up surrounded by wealth, protocol, and constant privilege can make extraordinary behavior feel completely normal to the person living it, even when it shocks the rest of the world.
Good question. He took very tough action back in October when he stripped him of his title. He was kicked out of the Royal Lodge at Windsor. He takes that role as the most important part of what he does. But he's a brother. Now, they may not be that close, but he's nonetheless a brother. And I suspect now that he's, as it were, banished.
Burrell suggests that high-profile downfalls rarely come from a single mistake. Instead, they build from a lifetime of habits where few ever said no. At the center lies a profound transformation. A man once defined by royal titles, honors, and recognition now lives quietly, stripped of the institutional presence that shaped nearly every moment of his life. Navigating life without automatic respect or protection is rare, especially on a stage as global as the British monarchy. Public fascination continues because every update and insider recollection deepens the intrigue. Burrell reminds readers that privilege doesn't make anyone immune to change, and when it finally comes, it can alter everything they've ever known. The bigger question remains, can Andrew ever rebuild public trust or restore a reputation so thoroughly dismantled? Burrell doesn't have the answer, but his reflections show how authority, loyalty, and accountability collide inside institutions built on image, secrecy, and centuries of tradition. Behaviors that once felt normal inside the royal bubble can shock the outside world. And that clash between private reality and public expectation is at the heart of his account. Power doesn't just come with privilege, it comes with consequences. When the shield of royal life weakens, those consequences hit fast. The same spotlight that once glorified now exposes every flaw. But at the heart of it all is an emotional truth. Even royal families are still made up of people, parents, children, siblings, with complicated emotions that don't vanish because of crowns. Beneath protocol and ceremony lie bonds of love, guilt, disappointment, and loyalty, pulling in every direction. Burrell shows how those relationships can both protect and trap people. Loyalty can make family defend one another long after they should have drawn the line. Protective instincts delay tough decisions, but when consequences finally arrive, they hit all at once. Public, sudden, and impossible to contain. What seems like a shocking downfall is often the result of years of quiet buildup behind palace doors. Burrell ties this into a bigger picture. Privilege doesn't just grant comfort, it can create blind spots. Systems meant to protect status can limit personal growth, creating habits that harden over time and a sense of untouchability that's hard to undo. When accountability finally comes under the harsh glare of global media, it can be overwhelming, even disorienting. That pressure doesn't just affect behavior, it reshapes identity. For Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, his sense of self was built on royal titles, ceremonies, access, and recognition. Losing those elements didn't just change his public role, it struck at the core of who he thought he was. Adjusting to that reality is deeply challenging, both practically and emotionally, and the transformation from high-ranking royal to life outside the institution sent shockwaves through the family and beyond. Burrell explains that losing institutional support can leave someone struggling to define themselves without the crown's protection. It's not just about power, it's about purpose. When purpose disappears, isolation can settle in fast. Public opinion has changed dramatically. Royal controversies that once faded with tradition now face a world demanding transparency, accountability, and responsibility. When expectations aren't met, forgiveness is almost impossible. Burrell notes that royal silence, once a strategy to protect the monarchy, can now make things worse. Limited responses leave individuals to face public judgment alone. The very systems that once shielded someone can pull back, leaving them exposed to scrutiny they were once insulated from. Trust broken on a global scale is nearly impossible to rebuild. Burrell shows how decades of protection, power, and pressure can collapse almost overnight when accountability arrives. Every new headline, interview, or tell-all adds another layer to a story that refuses to fade. What began as a private family matter has become an ongoing saga shaping public perception and royal history in real time. Some portray Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as navigating unexpected consequences. Others see a lifetime of unchecked privilege. Public opinion is divided from curiosity to disbelief. No matter where people stand, these events have rewritten reputations, shifted relationships, and altered royal legacies once thought untouchable. Burrell reminds us that history isn't written overnight. It's layered, debated, and reinterpreted as every new voice adds to the story. The bigger question, can trust ever truly be restored? Can someone so publicly disgraced rebuild credibility in a system built on image and reverence? The question still hanging in the air is redemption. Can it ever be found once the spotlight turns harsh? Paul Burrell's revelations keep rippling through public conversation, and one thing is clear. This story is far from over. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, once a high-ranking royal, has become one of the most talked-about figures in modern royal history. It's a story about image, privilege, and what happens when the walls of protection finally fall. Burrell's memoir doesn't just expose events, it sparks reflection. It forces us to ask, how much of a person's path is chosen, and how much is shaped by the world they're born into? Can someone raised in constant privilege ever truly see themselves the way the world does? And when the system pulls away, can they adapt? Or do they crumble? What stands out is that no title, status, or luxury can shield anyone from consequence forever. Once public trust slips, even centuries of legacy can't stop the shift. This saga paints a picture not just of downfall, but of transformation. A reminder that even the most powerful families aren't immune to human flaws, pressure, or judgment. So, before you go, like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Crown Clash. Every day I share a new video exploring the drama behind royal life.